Thanks a lot for coming in.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Something about this community appeals to you?
This is a wonderful place to live.
For Kelowna Now, this is Kent Mulgat. And we're joined by Clay Pottinger, the new head coach of the UBCO Heat men's basketball team. Thanks for coming in.
No problem.
So, over at Red Deer, where you've been, what is it? You had like 137 wins against 41 losses over several years. You're taking charge of a program where wins are a little harder to come by. So is that a sort of a daunting task for you or a challenge? How do you see it?
I do view it as a challenge. I think there were some challenges at Red Deer too when I got there as well too. I think the year before or the couple years before, they were always, a playoff team, but not necessarily at the upper echelon. So I came in and was able to sort of build the program to what it is today over an 8-year process. So being in a situation where you're building like that is not only challenging, but it's somewhere I've kind of been before. So I'm well aware of the challenges, but I'm not worried or scared about it. I really view it more of as an opportunity to do something great. My first coaching job at the post-secondary level was at King's University in Edmonton. That was a team that was, 2-3 wins a season, 2-22, I think we were on that first year. So that experience sort of actually is where I really formed my coaching philosophy about how you really can develop a program and get beyond the wins or losses initially and really get to building a program and a culture so that the wins and losses can come eventually.
Right. Yeah. You can look forward to wins in the future without getting into too much despair in the present time. If the losses are coming.
Exactly.
So do you see yourself as coming? Are you going to be part of a personnel change? Do you see big changes in the people on the court, or is it more in terms of making the best out of what you've got?
Well, I'll get an opportunity tomorrow to assess some of the returning players. Of course, I've looked at stats and their records and their histories here as well too. I think there's some great pieces currently on the basketball team here, and I think it really will boil down to finding some other great players to augment the skill sets of the guys that are already here. Continue to build the culture of the basketball program so they can see the vision in the process, and then keep getting better.
Right. Yeah. So what about recruiting players to play for a team like UBCO? There's not a huge history of being, winning teams, but the appeal of the Okanagan. You got married here, right?
I did, yeah.
Does that help to the fact that it's kind of a nice place?
It helped me get me here, I'll tell you that for sure. So I think once people kind of visit Kelowna, it's the city itself is an easy sell for them. I think it is challenging though when you're going for the top tier recruits to try and get them to come, because there's a lot of great options, not just in Canada West, but across the nation. And the way things are going globally now, even south of the border and otherwise for a lot of our good student athletes. Yeah. But two things I think that make this region unique is, number one, there's fantastic basketball in the Okanagan Valley, right from Osoyoos all the way up to Salmon Arm. I think that for instance, this year at the high school level, there were 4 teams on the guys' side that made it to the provincial finals, 1A through Quad A, that are from this region. So there's good coaching, there's a lot of good players in this region. So I think you can probably start building a good team by looking very closely at the kids that are right in your back door, right? In your backyard. So
fantastic. So is there a particular style of coach? Do you have a way of describing yourself? Are you the kind of coach we're going to see jumping off your chair and being really dynamic on the sidelines, or do you speak quietly to your team from your seat?
Good question. I think if my players were to describe me, I think they would use the word caring and demanding. Those 2 words would come out at some point in their rhetoric. In terms of my demeanor, I think I'm pretty intense on the sideline, but I'm not the type of like in in 8 years at Red Deer, I can count on one hand how many technical fouls I've taken. Like, that's not my style. I'm more
Ever been ejected from a game?
I have been ejected from a game. That happened once, and wasn't at Red Deer. It was somewhere else, I think. But so it's not that sort of overboard.
You're not the Bobby Knight kind of guy.
Yeah, the Bobby Knight
chair.
throwing the chair, getting after the refs kind of thing.
Right.
Most of my intensity is directed towards trying to get the guys to play and trying to connect with the guys and enjoying the competition, the mixing it up. I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
I watch a fair bit of basketball, and I always like it when a coach really puts enough emphasis on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Who throws really good aggressive defenses at another team to throw them off.
Yeah.
Do you put a lot of emphasis on that side of the game?
On the defensive side of the
Yeah.
game? Yeah, I think that from a tactical perspective, probably I focus a lot more on defense. I think my success with teams over the years has been, when we're good, it's because we have the ability to defend. So in terms of my personal coaching philosophy, definitely what I would want is to have some good defensive schemes and some good athletes to be able to execute those defensive
Right
schemes.
now, and your role as coach goes beyond the men's Heat team. In the news release put out by UBCO, it was talking about the junior Heat program.
Yeah.
So what role do you play there?
I'm starting to discover that role a little bit, but I do see the synergies between the junior Heat, the connection to the community, the development of players in the community,
Right.
the long-term development of players in the community who would ultimately be, potential student athletes, recruits for us. So, I think my role is going to be, just generally speaking, is going to be facilitating that process.
Right. Maybe we should explain to our viewers that junior Heat, these are for youth basketball players in the community that aren't even at college age yet, club teams, et cetera, to get to sort of build skills at the younger age groups. So
Yes.
that's not something you would have done at Red Deer. So this is new for you?
No, it's totally what I did at Red Deer. In fact, I started the Central Alberta Basketball Club for the exact same reasons that we just talked about, that the junior Heat would be effective. So we were able to, for instance, at Red Deer, over about a 4 or 5 year period, develop some of the local athletes to the point where we had seven of the 14 guys on our roster were local and from the club. Right. So, and we, were able to finish second in our division last year with a bunch of local kids. In fact, our top player in our first team All-Star was a local product.
Right. And that must add a nice kind of texture to the team when they're kind of playing for their hometown.
Yeah, big time. And, the other dynamic is that as you think about the long-term athlete development, you can work with them all summer because they're here. They're going to get jobs here, they live here, as opposed to when you recruit a kid in. That's great if they're a great player, but then they leave, you send them home with a workout or whatever, and you just aren't able to follow up the same way. Right. So it's important, I think, for a community like this to have a very strong local contingent on the basketball team.
I want to cycle back to the recruiting thing because I understand that at UBCO, one difficulty is that anyone you recruit has to meet a really high academic standard. There isn't sort of I don't want to insult people in the phys ed program, but there isn't sort of an easier academic channel you can put them in so you can take in that great athlete who's not good with the books. They really have to be both. And so that kind of reduces the field of candidates a bit, doesn't it?
I think it does, but it also allows you to focus a little bit more on where you're going to recruit. So it's, in some ways you might look at it as it's going to be more competitive because a lot of schools are in that same situation. But you can essentially eliminate and narrow down who you're going to recruit and how you're going to spend your recruiting time a little bit more. Right. At Red Deer College, one of the advantages, it was an advantage because we had everything from trades programs up to university programs. Okay. So I could basically recruit anywhere and probably we'd be able to find a program for a kid, which is awesome. Here I can focus my recruiting a little bit more on those the student athletes that I know are able to get into one of our programs.
So we like to keep these things to about 10 minutes, and I know you wanted to bring up some of your experience at breakfast this morning with Dr. Megan Grant, this amazing Canadian cyclist, and I think there's a lot about sports that inspires people, and it sounds like you heard a lot of inspirational stuff this morning.
Yeah, totally. And Jordan as well, who was on the UBCO women's basketball team. Both of them had inspirational stories, which really resonated with me because of their ability to meet adversity, face adversity, accept it, not deny the fact that you are feeling it, but then to be able to turn around and use it to motivate themselves to achieve things. So I think that in the building process of the men's team here at UBCO, there is going to be some adversity, and really the work will be trying to focus on the big picture and be able to fight through some of that adversity, develop some character, and then the team will improve. So I was really inspired by those messages that I heard from those athletes this morning, and I know there were some returning players for the Heat that were in that room too, and I'm hoping they were inspired by that message as well.
Fantastic. Really great to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
Clay Pottinger, new head coach of the UBCO Heat program, and thanks for watching Kelowna Now.